Hello. Hi, Rhonda. Good to see you. How are you? How are things? Good, good, or tolerable, or something like that, I hope. Hey, Starla. I am feeling better and more energized. Hi, Linda and Tim. I am much better than I was. That is a fact. Thank you for asking. Hello, Peggy. Yeah, I'm doing much better. You know, it's it's a little bit challenging to come home and just jump right back into everything, but that's what you have to do, or you'll just sit around and do nothing forever, I guess. Yeah, so anyway, yeah. How's Tim doing? I hope he's doing well. Hello, Connie. Connie's recovering from surgery. Wow. Prayers for you that you make a full and complete recovery. Absolutely. Today is, it's like such a beautiful day out today. Ugh, it's gorgeous out. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Tim as well. Good. You give him a big hug for me. Hi, Sharon. Tell him I said hello. I still have postcards to send him. I got to dig those out of my bag and get those in the mail, for crying out loud. Anyway, yeah, so things are going well. The day is beautiful. I was able to go in and have lunch with Elton, so he got a break from what he was doing today, and I got to see him, and so that was nice. And yeah, so it was a good day. Good day. Rhonda wants to go back outside. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It is. Fortunately, it has just been beautiful today. Yeah. I got to move that copper. That is going to make everybody a little crazy. It's really shiny. So anyway, let's see. Let's just get into it today. So last we were together, I was obsessed, and quite frankly still am, with copper and painting on copper, all because of a dumb book I read. It wasn't a dumb book, but it was a book. Hey, Julie. And the book was called The Art Thief. And so anyway, I read that while I was gone on vacation. And it was all about this guy who turns out was apparently really an art thief in real life. And he and his girlfriend, and some of the things that they stole were paintings on copper. And so there was a section in this paperback, which is a little unusual, of colored pictures of the things, some of the things that they stole. And there was one picture that just absolutely captured me, and I thought, I wonder what I could, use that as inspiration. That's where this whole thing came from. Anyway, I didn't have any copper at the moment, and so we started out with painting. I painted a piece of a scrap of watercolor paper with a copper background. This is just to catch everybody up to how this came to be, in case you're coming in late. Not late, but after I did this. So I used this just Delta Ceram Coat Gleams acrylic paint in metallic copper, and I gave it 2 coats of copper paint in the background, and then I just sketched some flowers, doodly flowers. You feel like there was a movie based on this book, or at least the same title. Oh, interesting, Starla. Could be. Certainly could be. Yeah, today you could get too hot outside, that is for sure. It was really warm here today, which was great. I had to have the air conditioner on in the car. Thank goodness I have air conditioning in my car. Anyway, so I just painted on this. This was a total experiment. I drew with one of these pencils. I think this was the one I used. And just sketched on everything on here is just sketched on directly onto the copper paint background. And then I painted all of it using golden fluid acrylics, or there were 2 or 3 high flow acrylics that I used. And they were all golden products, which I have to admit are not the least expensive products in the world, but they are high quality products. I am gradually accumulating the colors I want over time. I've just accumulated them 1 bottle at a time, or 1 tube at a time. Most of them are bottles, and because I like the fluid acrylics. And so I accumulated or used the ones that were the most translucent. That's how this came to be. All right, so far so good. And I also used as my medium gloss glazing liquid. So that's what I used. Then the part that you haven't seen is where I decided to use a black micron Pigma micron, one of these Pigma micron, and I outlined everything, which helped to do away with the black smudges from the black lines where I sketched on the floral shapes and the leaves and stuff. So that just sort of helped make that, let the sketchiness kind of go into the background. And I added some veining to some of the leaves. I added some additional like pollen dots around the center in black. This flower ended up to be pretty polka dotty. So did this one, quite frankly, but you know, whatever. I outlined all the little calico leaves. The reason those leaves are kind of calico in color, meaning they're multicolored, is just so that I could tie the whole thing together. And that ended up to be my piece that I finished. Before I did the outlines on this particular one, because I just did the outlines on this one today, I took it to my copy machine and I copied it. This is a laser printer. It's a HP, I don't know what. It's not an expensive one, as laser printers go, color laser printers. So I copied it 3 times. This is one of the copies. Now I'm going to show you side-by-side comparison, and you'll notice that the copy, and this is just on 20-pound, just plain old inexpensive copy paper, how very different the colors are. Okay, so come over here so you can see this. The big reason for that is that this copper background is so shiny and reflective that it reflects into the mechanism of the printer, and so it then reads that as it adjusts and it makes it darker. Okay, so that's why this is appreciably darker. However, this has a much more Renaissance kind of look to it, with it being dark like this. So that was kind of interesting. I played around with the settings and I printed it 3 times, and I got successively lighter each time until I got it as light as I possibly could. And so there are some differences, which I'm going to show you. I've already cut this one, so we're going to have to kind of lay it down and kind of see if we can compare. So I'm going to take this one out. So these are the copies. This one, I think, the one on the bottom, I think was the lightest one. But that's about as light as I could get it. Anyway, so you can just play around with it, which I did. Okay. Once I had it printed, then I thought, well, now what am I going to do with it? And so this is where I began playing using the micron pens and playing around with the outlines. So this was not a very thick pen. This one appears, the lines appear to be thick on here, but that's because that pencil that I used to do the sketching left a pretty heavy black line, and I didn't rub any of it out on this one. I did rub it out on this one before I started painting, so there's not as much of the heavy black outline. Okay. All right, so I started playing around with outlining things. Now, as I said, this one's been started to be cut apart. It's showing up a little pinker on the screen than it actually is, but this one is all done in black. All the outlines were in black. All the details were in black. I did some added some dimension with some dots in, not cross hatching, but you know what I'm talking about. So I added some dimension on this one with the black specks dots to give dimension. And then I thought, yeah, I don't know that I really need to do that again. And so it was everything's an experiment. It's a piece of copy paper, so who cares? This one, again, I've already cut it apart, started to cut it apart. This one, I decided that what I was going to do on this one was to use white. And I am going to order some of the Panda Fly white pens because I have not tried those and I keep seeing good things about them. So what I used were the white jelly roll pens. Now, when this went through the printer, it of course coats the whole paper with the ink. So this paper is regular text paper. And so it has some tooth to it, you know. It's just a regular, I don't know how to describe it. It's not a shiny, glossy paper. But by the time it goes through and gets the laser treatment and all the laser ink on it, it becomes kind of shiny. And so the white pen did this hoppity-skippity thing as I was outlining. And I decided I liked it. So, yeah, so that's what I did. And Elton and I were talking about it, I don't know, last night or today, and he said, well, which one do you like better? And I said, I don't know, they're just different. So there is one with the black or the white outlines, and here's the other one before I did anything to it with the black outlines. So this definitely has a moodier appearance to this one. They're just different, right? Just different. Boutinger, Buutinger. I should write that down. That is not a name I'm familiar with. Buutinger. Okay. Okay, I'm just writing it down so that I know. Thank you. I may order some of those also. Okay, so now what I have done, I need to stop saying okay. What I did next is I cut them the same size as best I could. And I cut one going horizontally, approximately 3/4 of an inch strips. I have left them attached at this end just barely, so they're very floppy. And the other one I cut vertically. So what we're going to do just because I want to see what happens, is we're going to weave these two together that are the same print, that are the same size, but have the difference in the outline and maybe a slight difference in how the lightness of the print, shall we say. And I thought, let's just weave them together and see what happens. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to use this board. Like so. This is all an experiment, and if it goes horribly wrong, it doesn't make any difference because they're just prints, you know, made with my printer that's in the room next door to my art room here. So let us see what we can do. Okay, I don't know that I'm going to need this, but I'm going to put it up here just in case. This is a T-square, so we're going to see if we can keep this kind of more or less square. I don't know if it's going to work, but you know, we're going to give it the old college try. And there's not really an exceedingly great way to start this process that I've found. I've tried it all different kinds of ways. But you do need to keep the strips in order if you wish to keep them in order, which I'm going to try to do. I may decide that that was totally stupid, but for the moment, we're going to try it. Okay? So let's just weave these, and I did not make these strips very narrow. I do love them when they're super narrow, but boy does that take a long time to weave. And so we're going to need something that has a helper. Okay. So we are going, and I don't know, I just had, you know, this was one of those things that I thought, I just wonder if this is gonna work. And so might as well try it with you guys, right? Okay, then up here at the end, I'm going to have to, I mean, there's different ways to approach this. This is just what I'm going to do. And I'm going to spot glue this with a little bit of glue, and hopefully you can see and talk amongst yourselves because yes, that's what this requires. Talk amongst yourselves. Once you get started with this, it's not so fiddly, but it's the starting. And I thought about doing this off camera, but you know, where is the fun in that? When you guys could watch me kind of struggle along. and I'm going to do these one little strip at a time. So yeah, so if there's anything that you are interested in me talking about, while I do this, you can ask me a question. And Elton asked me earlier, he said, what are you going to do tonight? He always wants to know. And I most generally say, I don't have any idea, which he just cannot really wrap his brain around. And I said, you know, I've tried to make myself know exactly what I'm going to do, and it doesn't usually work because the creative part of me, the internal creative part of me, usually says at the last minute, if I've tried to plan it, which I have many times, it usually says, nope, we're not doing that. You just think you're doing that. And so, you know, it's better if it's just a big surprise to all of us, you know? Oh, don't do that. Okay, it gets rapidly wonky, and you just have to do the best you can. And in the end, this whole thing of weaving two different ones with the subtlety of the outline may be completely pointless. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to try something and see if it's going to work, and see if there's any value in trying it. Okay. Once I get this first little line of strips secured, then I'll look at the chat, okay? So, you guys be patient just a little bit. Do any of you ever try stuff like this where you go, you know, let's just see. Let's just see if this works. And I can't even tell you how many times I've thought. I mean, one of the reasons also for doing this is that this is just 20-pound copy or text copy paper. So 20-pound paper is not very heavy. So that's another reason I wanted to weave it, because the weaving should kind of help thicken it up a little bit. And you know what? I love woven paper. And this could go down in the history of things I've done as maybe the craziest or most epically boring. And, you know, I'm okay with that too, because I do plenty of boring things. Like back in the day when I learned to tailor wool, and I was making like wool winter coats and stuff like that. and you had to do all the pad stitching and all that kind of stuff. There are lots of people that would never ever do that either, because that was right up there with the epically boring. Quilling comes to mind. Quilling tends to be something that's a bit, not quilting, but quilling. Which is paper coiling. It goes in and out of fashion. And boy, it can take a lot of time. Okay, we're coming in the home stretch of this first row. But you know, I thought about doing this before I came on with you guys, and I thought, you guys, if you are interested in doing anything like this, you got to realize that this takes time. But if you want to keep your pattern in order, which I do, you do have to cut it apart slowly. And we're down to the last 2 strips. Let's try not to screw it up, Barb. So before I come back on and look at what you guys are saying, you remember me telling you about the neighbors next door that left the cats that we inherited? Beckett and Socks, that came to live with us because they insisted upon being adopted here. The people who live there, I don't know how much I've told you about this. I don't even know their names. But they have been doing some of the most interesting things to that property. And one of the things they did, and I may have told you guys about this, I don't remember, is he put a bunch of big round bales on a trailer and then somehow turned the corner into the driveway a little too quickly, I guess, or something. Anyway, they were stacked 2 round bales high on this trailer. It was a long trailer, like a what do you call the trailer? Gooseneck? I don't know. Anyway, turned the whole thing over, tore up his truck, tore up the trailer, tore up everything. It was crazy. Anyway, whew. Okay, so let's see. Let me come back here. Hello, Ellen. I see Dorothy. Scrolling back here. 9 pins, 9 of the Boutique, I don't even know how you say it, Boutiqueur. White gel pens, 9 for $7.46. Wow. Hi, Dorothy. Yeah, we did change our clocks, so yeah, yep. 3 tip sizes. 9 pins for $7.46. That is cray-cray. Hey, Ruth Edwards. Dorothy bought 2 copper plates to try. Cool. Let me know how it comes out. I'm just reading through the chat here. You never get bored with me? Oh, Ellen, just hang around. You will. Rhonda says she did quilling for a bit. It is tedious. It really is. And you are better off, if you get into quilling, you are better off to buy the little strips of paper than to cut the strips of paper. That is a fact. That is a fact. Okay. I think this is relatively straight. So I'm not sure. It's relatively square on our little mat here, so I'm not sure that I'm going to bother with the T-square. So I've got it, it's pretty straight. So we're going to go with it, okay? We're just going to go with it. By the time you get down to the bottom, it'll be off anyway. Okay, so here is my other image cut apart, but not all the way. And so we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and weave it. Oh, it's fiddly, fiddly, fiddly. Okay, let's see if we can, okay, this one is going to go on top. Okay, this is going to go, let's try coming from this end. Since I'm right-handed, let's see if we can make this work. Sometimes it just takes a minute to develop your system. About the time I get the system developed for how it's going to work, I'm bored and I'm ready to move on to the next thing. Okay, let's push this up. And what I'm going to try to do is to snug this up as far as possible so that I can try to keep the lines, the white and black lines, completing the image. And I don't know whether this is worth doing or not, but I'm interested in it, so I'm going to keep going, okay? I may never do it again. Need to get a hold of this just a little bit. Okay. All right, I'm going to just tack it on the end here. And scooch it up as much as I can and tack it on the other end. It's not going to be exactly the same, but I think it could. I think it might have possibilities. Let's see. Okay, let's go to the next strip. Yeah, so those same, I'm going to go from this end. Yes, Barb. The same neighbors have decided to build a shed of some kind. And you know how sometimes you just enjoy watching people going, I wouldn't have thought of doing that. And because we live in the country, there are not as many codes for what you can and what you can't do. So it's interesting to watch people and see what their method, what the method is to their what appears to be kind of madness, you know. And they had a lot of goats at one point. Those disappeared. And then they brought in, they had sheep and goats, and then that changed to no goats, but just sheep. And then recently he brought in cattle. Not too many, but some. Like, okay, well, I wonder what that's going to be like. I don't know. It's a curiosity. Okay, so tack that, and protect this. I am using art glitter glue because it is pretty fast drying. I don't know. The jury is out as to whether I'm going to like this. Yeah, you do need to buy the strips. Although some people, when they're quilling, like the challenge of cutting their own. Yeah. Okay. It's too meticulous, not to me, not to just buy them. I think that's a deal. Whatever somebody charges for cutting those little strips of, because some of them are what, 1/4 inch, some of them are 1/8 inch, I don't know. They are tiny and they would be ever so tedious to cut, I think. Okay, let's tack and tack. I don't know. What do you guys think so far? Can you tell? Can you tell anything? Can you see? Does it look like it's just a big mess? I can't tell. Okay, so let's go under, over, under. So what have you guys been doing on this, if you're in the northern hemisphere on this beautiful day? I hope none of you are in the line of the tornado activity that ripped through a bunch of states and so forth. I hope none of you got caught up in that. And I do hope you've got to enjoy a beautiful day today. We ate breakfast outside on our deck. It's just a wee bit nippy, but you know, I think a lot of times men do not sense the cold the way we do. Although Claus Man was the exception to that, man, he was one. Of course, he was incredibly thin, so he didn't have much body fat on him. But when it was nice and hot outside, he still wanted to wear a shirt and always wanted to have a sweatshirt available and a hat. And most of the time he wanted that on, and I'm like, okay. But I just don't think he felt the temperature the way. Now, I don't know if you can see, but the pattern is beginning to get off a little bit. The outlines are beginning to get off a little bit more. Like right in here. So things, it kind of is in and out of register, shall we say. But I'm kind of fascinated by that, so you know, we're going to keep going. We started watching a TV show, Barb's Random stream of consciousness here. When I'm doing something I got to pay attention to. It's just kind of whatever floats in and out of my brain that we talk about. We started watching a series on Hulu last night called Best Medicine. And Elton has the attention span of a gnat. He really does. And so for him to enjoy, I mean, his default is just go to sleep, so that's why he likes watching the news, because it keeps, not the news to me is just wretched and incredibly boring, and that is one place that we are very different from each other. So I will sit and watch the news with him, but I always have in an earbud, and I have something going on, that I'm watching online. Oh, well, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Which one do I want this? This is under. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so I've found that if I just put something on the television, he'll get kind of interested in it sometimes. And so he was watching this. It was first episode of Best Medicine was the name of the show. And it's about a doctor who, I've only watched the first episode and part of the second, I think it was. And this doctor, yeah, this one is really quite a bit off over here on this side. That's all right. Yeah, I don't know how it got off quite that much. Let's scooch over. It's because it isn't all the way over. That's why. Anyway, it's a doctor who faints at the sight of blood, and there's a backstory to it, but I don't know exactly what it is. They haven't revealed all of it yet. And anyway, he got really interested. It moved fast enough that he got interested in it. He said, "Where did you find this?" And I said, "It's on Hulu." And he goes, "Hulu?" I'm like, "Yep, Hulu." He's like, "What is Hulu?" I said, "Well, it's one of the streaming services on the DirecTV, which is what we have." And he goes, "Oh. Well, how did you know about it?" And I said, "I didn't." And he found that quite interesting that I would find this thing, because he just doesn't quite, his brain doesn't operate that way. I'll just look at something and try it, and if I like it, great, and if I don't like it, that's okay, I'll just move on to something else. Anyway, we watched a couple episodes of it last night before he started nodding off. And he said, I watched most of it. He was very proud of himself that he had watched most of it. For him, I don't know if I ever told you about him trying to watch Wicked, the first movie, Wicked. We were on a cruise last summer with all of his kids and his granddaughter, and Wicked was going to be on, and I don't know, it was either his daughter or his granddaughter said something about watching it, and I'd watched it once before, but I had, I think it's a musical, and so sometimes you kind of have to watch some stuff more than once to get the whole picture. And so I said, and Elton says, "Well, I'll watch it." And I said, "There is no way that you will watch this show. You'll never stay awake." And he goes, "Yes, I will." And I said, "No, you won't." And of course, all of his daughter and daughters and granddaughter, they all know how he is. They know how he is even better than I am, because this is a recurring pattern in his life where he never stays awake for TV shows and that kind of movies and so forth. and boy, he was going to stay awake. It was so chilly that night. It was windy. The theater was movie screen was outside. I kept saying, we don't have to stay here for the whole thing. And he goes, oh yes we do. Oh, he was a real pain in the you know what on that. Said, yes we do, we have to stay and watch this. Got to the end of it, and I said, now it's right at the end, and I knew what was coming. And I said, now you're going to be so happy with the end screen on this movie. And he goes, because any of you that watched it, you know it's a very long movie. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, you'll see. And then up pops the banner that says to be continued. I thought he was going to collapse. He goes, you mean I have stayed awake this whole time, and it's not even the end. I said, yep, that's right. Oh my goodness, that was hilarious. We all laughed. All of us laughed very hard at him, because he even had some other things that he chose to say about it that weren't very nice, mind you. Yeah. He hasn't offered to watch the second movie with me. I haven't watched it either. Okay, so this one is this fiddly strip, and it's off about 1/8 of an inch here at the end. And that's okay. Starla falls asleep for movies too. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over, and we'll see if I can do this upside down, because I need to weave it. Okay. See, this kind of stuff, some people just, it drives them bonkers. Doesn't really drive me totally nuts. A little bit. Yeah, now see, it's gone from 1/8 of an inch to about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to come over to this end, because this needs to be under here. I'm going to go ahead and glue this little tab here. Now, it's bubbling a little bit, but if I cut it up to do something with it, it won't matter. That kind of bubbly thing isn't going to matter. All right, now let's see if we can I'm just going to see if I can make these little tabs come up where they're supposed to. So far, so good. Okay. This one over here does not want to let it lay down flat at all. That's okay. We'll just work around it. Okay. I'm just going to glue these, tack these little tabs in place. Yeah, it's off about 1/4 of an inch, and that is pretty standard, I find, when paper weaving. If things get off a whole lot and that bothers you, this is not a good art for you to try. Or maybe it's good for you because it would challenge you. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab the glue again. I'm going to glue these little tabs on the back side. To give it a little bit more stability. Okay, and that down there is glued. Okay, whoa, drop the pin. That's not good. Okay, found it. You got to keep the pin in this glue, because if it's hard enough to keep this little tiny tip working. If you don't have this stainless steel or a pin in there, it's hopeless. Okay, there we go. I think it's interesting. Okay, what do you guys think? Ellen's hidden out. Okay. I can hear you, Sharon. Ah, yes. Starla falls asleep to movies. So it's interesting, huh? It's just an interesting concept. Now, the next question is what to do with it. It's not square. I think it could be interesting to, it could be a book cover, which I'm not sure that I want to do that, because those little places that are not glued down would be subject to tearing. The other thing I thought that would be kind of fun to do with this is possibly to cut it apart and put it on cards. What do you guys suggest? Anybody have suggestions for what you might think would be cool to do with it? I think it's pretty interesting, actually. Let's look at it from a different camera. How about from this camera? So you can see it from a different perspective. What do you think? I think it's kind of interesting. Hey, Artie Dar. So Sharon's is a book cover. I think it's fun. I don't know. I'm kind of in favor of maybe cutting it up for cards. Let's get some, I have some card bases. Let's just take a look. At some card bases and just see what happens. Yeah, the loose parts would have to be glued, that is for sure. Okay, so here's a whole bunch of card bases that I just, there's all different colors. And here's some more colors. And here are some mats, I think. So let's just take a look. I think it could make some really interesting cards. What if we put a black mat and put that on top of the black mat? I think that could be really interesting. honestly, I don't think it'd make any difference what color card we put behind it. It's more interesting with what you need the black mat to set it apart from the card base. I think there's enough colors in this that I think whatever the actual card base, I think it could work. All right, let's do that. Let's cut it up. I have some black mats. I have several black mats here. I think black is the best color for the mat, and so let's play around with that, shall we? Yeah, but it's already been copied once, so I'm not sure that I want to copy it again. I think that we might lose some part of it. Let's see what we have. Okay, we have basically 6 1/4-ish. 6 1/4, so we'll probably have to go, yeah, we'll have to go this direction because there's not enough. Okay, so if we go this way, oh, we're gonna have to do math, and you know that is not my strong suit. Okay. So these mats are 5 1/4 by 4. 5 1/4 by 4. That's what I've cut these mats to. And let's just see if that's going to work on these cards. Yes. Okay. Barb's having to think, and you know, it's hard on my brain to think sometimes. 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So we want to cut this mat let's try 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Okay, so if we do 4 3/4, okay, let's try it. So the first thing we'll do is go 3 1/2. I'm going to have to go get my rotary cutter, however, because I don't dare do this with a I don't think I can get away with doing it. And I'm just going to go straight across it, even though I could save that and make bookmarks out of it. We'll make bookmarks out of it regardless. Okay, so 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. 4 3/4 this way. Okay, am I right? Okay, I'm going to be right back. I need to go down the hall and get my rotary cutter. So hang on, everybody. Okay, I'm back. All right, so we're gonna go 3.5. If it doesn't work, it's 2 pieces of copy paper that took a little bit of time. We're not gonna worry about it, okay? Let's just see. Okay. 3.5. And we're gonna go 4 3/4. And I'm gonna have to straighten up the edge, so we'll see what happens, okay? All right, I'm going to set this little piece aside. We're going to turn this around and go 4 3/4 and see if we can square this up. Okay. All right, here's our black. We're just going to try this with 1. I think that is pretty stinking cool myself. I was just trying to decide if I was going to do glue or if I was going to do tape. I think trying to get the pin back in the glue bottle. All right, let's see what happens. I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. All right, here is a rusty red. Looks probably very orange to you. In real life, it is not super orange. It is a rusty color. Okay, we have that one. See what other colors I have. It's the same color. I think that is a good color, so we're going to go with that color. Yeah, we're going to go with this color. Okay? All right, let's see what happens. And I think I may leave I don't know if I'll leave these little ends kind of sticking up there. I may, just because it really lends itself to that basket weave kind of thing. I think I might do that. Okay. Let's see if we have enough. Yeah, we have enough tape on this. All right, let's go. Except it. Okay, my glue does not want to start out. Tape runner, that is. There we go. I don't know about you guys, but I do enjoy having a lot of note cards pre-made for various occasions. I try not to put the sentiments or quotes or whatever, I try not to put those on too soon. Yeah, I like it this way, because then it will limit the occasion. Okay, so there we go. Okay, there is one. I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? I know. He will, Peggy. He will. He will. Okay, so let's go. Let's see if we can do another one. So we're going to leave that little treasure over there. Let's go this way, and we did 3.5 by 4 3/4. So we did 3.5 this way. Yes, we did 3.5 this direction. Okay. He is forever coming in and saying, "Do you have any cards? Could we use one of your cards?" I'm gonna put a little glue right here, because that little tab is not going to, it's a skinny little bit right there. We're going to turn this around right quick and grab this little tab right here. Put a little glue there. That's a skinny little strip. Yeah. At least now it's secured on the two ends, so it's not going to come apart on the two ends. Okay, we'll gently put that to the side. Gently put that over there so we can see if we can keep it from coming undone. Okay, and this we did 4 3/4. Okay, so this we're still going to need to square it up a little bit, so we're going to go a little bit more than 4 3/4. Okay, like so. Okay. Put that little strip over there. Okay, 4 3/4. I did not give myself a whole lot of room there to square it up, but you know, is what it is. Okay, carefully move the ruler. Get another little mat. Let's just try it out and see if we think it's going to work. I think it is. Okay, let's try carefully to put glue on it. You have to be careful with this. If you're an impatient person, this might not be your thing. Sometimes I'm patient, sometimes not. Okay, let's see if we can pick up this piece, and let's see if we can put it on here. It's about 1/4 of an inch. Good enough. Okay, let's see if we can get it to adhere well to the cardstock. And I may change my mind and come back, like, you know, in a couple spots here, just give it a little extra. Don't think it's necessary to do every single one of them, but maybe in a couple spots. Oop. You don't want to, you don't want the glue to splatter. Easier said than done. Okay. All right, so let's call that good. And now we got to decide what color for this one. Okay, so we'll try some different colors. All right, you ready? Here is this one. Now I realize the colors are going to look a little different on the screen from in real life. That is actually quite pretty with that. Yeah, thin gold around it would be good. I don't have any thin gold, so there you go. Okay, here's this kind of melon color. That's also okay. All right, let's go rogue and see what this bright orange looks like. Yeah, I don't like the orange. That looks too Halloween. I think I'm going to go back to this one. I think I like that one. What do you think? Any votes? Let's look at this brown and see what it looks like. That's pretty good too. Okay, I'm going to let you guys choose. Which one do you think? The right, you're going to have to do right or left. We'll put them both on here so you can see. The one on the right or the one on the left. Get it on screen so you can actually see it. That would be helpful too. On the right, Starla says green. The only green I have this green and a pastel green, or a kind of a limey green. I think the green is too much for it. If it was a forest green, it would be different. Dark green. Okay, so the choices are the right or the left. 2 for the right. Okay, we're going for the right. We had 2 votes. If you didn't vote, it's too bad. Okay, let's do this. Then we can do one more. With whatever is left over. When you go to put these down on your card base, always check to make sure that you have the little bits of the tape kind of rolled away from the edge. All right, we can go this way, or we can go this way. I'm going to go this way. Doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go this way. Let's make sure. Okay. Okay, now we're going to open it up and burnish from the inside of the card, because if we burnish from the outside, we're going to run the risk of catching the little bits of the woven paper. Okay, so we have two. Let's go to this one and see what we can do with this one. So again, we are doing 3.5. Okay, we can squeeze out one more. Okay, 3.5. So I'm going to go ahead and square this up. Okay, by 4 3/4. All right, we're going to go from this end because this is the end that has the most even amount of stuff that I like. Or we could go this. Yeah, that's what we want. Okay, let's cut this part off here. We're going to measure from this side. Everything is very highly reflective here, so it's better if you do this when you're standing above your work, which I'm not. So we're going to do the best we can. 4 3/4. Okay, trying to make sure it's square as much as possible. Okay. I'm going to take this little piece and put it over there. Okay. All right. This is going to have a little bit of glue before we move it. Of course, I moved it and then said, well, you know what? We're just going to get rid of that. It's going to be okay if we just get rid of that and just let it be a little, have a little design element up there. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. All right, before I go any further, I am going to see, Barb, you can't. Barb's going to have to be careful here. Sometimes you have to be a little more careful than you realize. It's just because I had nothing anywhere that was holding any of this together, so that's why we gotta reinforce a little bit. This is coming out of the middle of the woven paper, so kind of have to be a little gentle here and kind of give it some extra help, just a little bit. Just a teeny tiny little extra bit of help. Okay, that should be enough to hold it together. Okay, whew. Goodness sakes, that was exciting there for a second. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's try. Try not to dislodge things. Okay. All right, here we go. Wish me luck. We got to turn this over and get it on the black. It's a little stressful over here. It's a little stressful. Okay. Okay, and turn it over, burnish from the back. Got it. We controlled it. Okay, so now we got to figure out what color we're going to put on this. I got it. I did. I got it. I did. I did. Okay, let's try some color options. How about, let's, on this one, that's that rusty color that we did earlier. I want to do like 3 different colors, just, you know, just because it would be nice to have 3 different colors. Okay, so we have that one. That is no good. That washes it out. So we're not going to do that. All right, let's try this green. Starla mentioned green a minute ago. Let's try this green with this one. I don't know. That seems awfully bright. What about this? Well, here's this melon color. This is different than we used before. Let's try this one. That picks up the highlights of those colors. Here is a gray. That's actually not bad. Do you like the gray? Okay, let's put this like this, so you guys can look at both. So there's gray or melon. What other color? We have this bright orange. I think this is way too bright. No, let's... Yeah, that is not it. And here is a white. Let's look at it on white. Starla says the melon color, the one on the left. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 options on this one. Melon, white, or gray. Those are your choices. I don't think this one's going to work. Let's try it, just because we should try it. Nah. We have this one. Actually, that's better than the white. That is, it's a pale pink. Okay, so your choices are melon. This is like a peach tone, and that's a gray. So far, melon. Melon is winning. Okay, you guys think the melon is it? The melon color? Okay. Melon color it is. All right, you guys, thank you for coming. We'll use you another day. Okay, so there is that. Okay, let's glue it on. I think these are kind of, I think this turned out way better than I thought it might. I have to say, I appreciate you guys helping me with this because it turned out way better than I expected. Remember, this whole thing just started out as a giant experiment to see what could happen if we painted on copper. I still have the piece of copper that I glued down to chipboard for us to paint on. Okay. Yeah, this way. Okay, let's put this on here. It's even relatively straight. That's like a minor miracle. Burnish. Okay, and here we go. Okay, so here are the 3 that we've done so far. There's that one, and that one. Let me come out a little bit so you can see. Okay, so there's those. They did turn out pretty, didn't they? Okay, let's see what we can do with these last little pieces. Okay, I'm gonna square this one up just a little bit. Because it is a wonky. All right. Okay. All right, let's go here. Take this one. So we're going to put this one in the middle first. Middle-ish, okay? Then we're going to take this one. Okay, let's see if we can get this on here before it wants to fall apart. Okay, and then if our luck holds, we can take this one and put it on. And with that, we will have, if we're successful with this one, we will have used all but the tiniest little scraps of this woven paper. Okay, let's see if we can get it on here. Okay, I'm going to reinforce this little flap and this little flap who are wanting to stick up. Okay, then we got this little one. When they get to be real tiny and the strips are so narrow, then you kind of have to give them a little help, you know? You got to help them out. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, now, you guys, we have to pick one more background. Let's see if we can pick something different than we've picked for the other three. Okay, so let's go with something different. Okay, let's try this. This is that peach color. I know it may look white to you, but it's actually peach. What else? We have this only one bee sting. Oh goodness. He's gonna be wanting me to be nice to him tonight, isn't he? Because it's gonna play the sympathy card. This is a gold. Okay, that's kind of nice. Yeah, he's going to be expecting me to be nice to him tonight. The peach is pretty good. Yeah, he says amen. Okay, let's take a look at that bright orange just because. There's the bright orange. That is really bright. I think it overwhelms the card though, or the image. So our option, I think, is this one. All right, I'll give you two choices. Left, pretend I'm your eye doctor. Who says 1 or 2, 3 or 4? I'm going to say left or right. This left is a gold, a soft gold. This is peach. Put some ice on it, Elton. Put some ice on it. Okay, let's go for the peach. All right, we got it. Let's fix her up, and then we're gonna call it good. All right, make sure the card opens at the right place. Now you can go into a store and you can buy 4 cards way faster than I just made these 4 cards. But I don't think you're going to, whoops, I don't think you're going to get 4 cards that are any more interesting than these. Do you? Nah. Okay, making sure the glue, the tape runner is back away from the edge. Okay, and here is our card. That may not be the straightest one I ever made, but most of the time I don't get them real straight anyway. They're handmade, folks. They're handmade. Okay, we are done. We're going to put all these away in my card box. And let's look at them, okay? You ready? Here we go. So here is this one. Now, my skin looks really, really pink because we adjusted the lights. So this is definitely a little pinker than it really is in real life. But, you know, it's okay. I'll show them to you in another camera. There's the second one we did. If any of you came in after I did this, what I did was, this was painted on copper painted paper, and then copies made of it, and then I wove 2 different copies together to get this. Here's this one, and this is the leftovers at the end. Okay, so I'm going to show them to you from the other camera. So the colors are possibly a little different. So there's that one. That one. You can actually, it even picks up some of the copper tones from the paint. I really am enjoying doing this. And there's this one. And then this is the leftover scraps. Truth be told, I like the scrappy one at the end about the best. You never know. Ah. Okay, I think that is it for today. We're going to call it good. Actually, that was not quite 2 hours to get 4 cards made, so not bad. I like them. What do you guys think? You like the concept? See what happens when you just don't worry about the outcome. You just start playing, and then you go, well, I wonder what would happen if we did this, and I wonder what would happen if we did that. You know, that's kind of how this came together. I'm really happy with those. I could do that again. I could do that again. I don't know. I like woven paper. To me, it's much more interesting. I mean, I could take this, which is a print. This is a copy of the original painting thing. And I could just cut it apart and put it on cards. But this is I think this is far more interesting with the woven paper. And some of it has white on it and some of it has black. And yeah, whatever. Okay. That's it for tonight. I will be back Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have changed time, so yeah, check your local time in case you got here and you're going, how come she's on this time? Well, it's because our time changed over the weekend, and I would have reminded you, except I forgot. So yeah. So I think on Friday what we may do, unless the Muse demands otherwise, we may paint on this little piece of copper. So this is copper flashing that I attached to chipboard. I really, really, really want to try a mandala on this. Not on this particular one, but on one of these. I think it would be really fun. I don't know. I gotta think a little bit more about that. Anyway, I will see you all on Friday. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week or evening or whatever. Dorothy, go to bed, girl. It's late. I will see you soon. Thanks for being here. Be kind to each other. Do something unexpected and nice for somebody else. You'll be glad you did. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for your encouragement and showing up and being a part of the group here. I do appreciate it. Love you all, and I will see you on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Until then, remember to get creative today because you know it's easy. I'll see you soon.